All right, let's just get right to it. The question that's on everyone's mind. Is this whole AI thing for real? Are we in the middle of a genuine revolution? Or are we just riding a massive hype train that's about to go off the rails? Is it a sustainable boom or a spectacular bubble that's just waiting to pop? That's what we're going to dig into.
I mean, you see it every day, right? One headline is screaming, bubble, and the very next one is hailing a new industrial revolution. It's enough to give you whiplash. So how do we cut through all that noise and figure out what's actually happening?
Okay, so first things first, we've got to be on the same page. What's the real difference between a boom and a bubble? Well, think of a boom as the hype being real. Yeah, investment goes crazy, but eventually the actual profits and the real-world value, they catch up. It builds something that lasts. A bubble, on the other hand, that's when the hype just completely detaches from reality. Prices go to the moon, and then they crash. Hard. The big difference is simple. Do the fundamentals ever actually show up to the party?
So to figure out which one of those paths AI is on, we can't just rely on gut feelings or opinions. We need a system, a clear framework. And lucky for us, the technologist and author Azim came up with this brilliant 5-gauge test that's going to help us cut right through the noise. Yeah, you can really think of it like a dashboard for the whole AI economy. We're going to check 5 key gauges: economic strain, industry strain, revenue growth, valuation heat, and the quality of the funding. Put them all together, and we should get a really clear, data-driven picture of where we stand. Okay, the framework is set. Let's do it. Time to start the investigation and put this AI boom to the test. First gauge on the dashboard, economic strain. So what this is asking is, has the investment in AI gotten so huge that it could actually bend the entire economy out of shape? Is everything leaning so heavily on AI that if it stumbles, it could take everything else down with it? And this is where a little history really puts things into perspective. Check this out. Back in the day, at the peak of the railway bubbles, that investment was chewing up about 4% of the entire GDP. I mean, that's a massive bet for a whole country. Now look at AI today. Even with all the billions being poured in, it's still less than 1% of GDP. We're not even close to the 2% danger zone. So for gauge number 1, we're looking good, solidly in the green. Okay, let's move on to our second gauge, because this is where things start to get a little tense. We're talking about industry strain, and this one is all about a simple kind of brutal ratio. For every single dollar of revenue that's coming in, how many dollars are going out on what's called capex, capital expenditure. That's all the money for building those giant data centers and buying mountains of chips. And, hoo boy, this is the number that is making some people very nervous. Right now, for every $1 of revenue these AI companies are making, they are spending $6 on infrastructure. That is a huge bet. It's way bigger than what we saw during the telecom bubble and like 3 times the strain of the old railway bubble. So yeah, of all our gauges, this is the one that's definitely flashing yellow. But a number like that doesn't exist in a vacuum. There has to be a reason for it, right? And that brings us to the big counterargument, which is our third gauge, revenue growth. The question is simple. Is the industry growing fast enough to actually justify that insane 6-to-1 spending? And the answer, right now at least, is a massive yes. Generative AI revenues, they're estimated to be growing at over 100% a year. They're basically doubling. Now compare that to the old bubbles. Right before the railway and telecom busts, their growth had slowed way down to like 16 to 22%. AI isn't just growing, it's accelerating. So this gauge, it's solidly back in the green. All right, let's get to the one everybody thinks about when they hear the word bubble. Gauge 4, valuation heat. Basically, have investors just gone crazy? Have stock prices shot into orbit, totally disconnected from how much money these companies are actually making? And the data here is pretty surprising. So if you look back at the absolute peak of the dot-com bubble, the Nasdaq's price-to-earnings ratio, that's just a fancy way of saying how many dollars you'll pay for $1 of profit, was an absolutely insane 72. Today, it's around 32. Now, don't get me wrong, 32 is still pretty hot, but it's less than half of the dot-com madness. So yeah, things are heated, but we're not in orbit. Yet. This brings us to a really, really important question. Who is footing the bill for all this? That's our fifth and final gauge, funding quality. Is this whole boom being built on a solid foundation of actual cash, or is it all propped up on shaky, speculative debt that could just disappear overnight? And this is where the AI boom is just different. The ones bankrolling this whole thing are the hyperscalers. We're talking Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon. These are some of the most profitable, cash-flush companies in the history of the world. They're spending their own money. This isn't built on a mountain of risky debt or hype from small-time investors. The foundation here is rock solid. Okay, we've checked all 5 gauges on our dashboard. The diagnostics are complete, the data's in, so let's bring it all together and see what the final verdict is. And here it is, the final scorecard. Look at that. 4 out of our 5 gauges are sitting comfortably in the green. The only one showing any real stress is that industry strain, that crazy spending ratio. But overall, the picture is pretty darn clear. So, the verdict, based on this whole framework, we are absolutely in the middle of a massive, historic, powerful AI boom. But, and this is the key thing, it doesn't meet the definition of a bubble. Not yet. The fundamentals, especially that incredible revenue growth, are actually keeping up with all the hype. But I said not yet for a reason, right? Because this dashboard isn't a one-and-done thing. Things change. So these are the warning signs you want to keep an eye on. If you see that total investment creeping up toward that 2% of GDP danger zone, or if you see those stock market PE ratios jumping up past 50, that's when the alarm bells should start ringing. You know, I think Azim Azhar himself summed it up perfectly with this quote. The engine is absolutely whining. I mean, it is running faster and harder than almost anything we've ever seen. But the gauges tell us it's not overheating. Not yet. So there you have it. We're in a boom, not a bubble. The system is definitely stressed, but it looks stable, which leaves us all with that one huge multi-trillion-dollar question: for how long?